The human guarded the enemy's daughter. The alien mother won't remember him. Part 1. The Prisoner's Duty. The smoke rose high into the gray sky of 7. Sergeant Park moved slowly through the frozen wasteland, his rifle ready, his eyes scanning the burning wreckage ahead. The ship had crashed hard. Pieces of metal were scattered across the ice like broken toys. Had been fighting for 6 years. He had seen friends die. He had killed enemies. He had stopped counting both a long time ago. The war between humans had lasted 11 years now, and neither side remembered why it started anymore. They only remembered the hate. His orders today were simple. A diplomatic vessel had crashed on this moon. Command wanted him to search the wreckage for intelligence, documents, data chips, anything useful. And if there were survivors, he was to eliminate them. No prisoners. No mercy. That was standard protocol for military personnel. Approached the main section of the crashed ship. The hull was torn open like paper. Fire still burned inside, casting orange light across the white snow. He could hear the wind howling and something else. A sound that made him stop. Crying, a child crying. He moved faster now, climbing over twisted metal and broken glass. The cold bit through his suit, but he ignored it. He followed the sound deeper into the wreckage until he found them. A woman lay on the floor, unconscious or dead. Her silver skin was covered in dark blue blood. Her uniform marked her as high-ranking, very high-ranking, and crouched over her body, trying to shield her with small arms, was a girl. The child could not have been older than 7 in human years. Her silver eyes were wide with terror. Blue tears ran down her pale face. When she saw, she screamed and pressed herself closer to her mother's body. Raised his rifle. His training told him what to do, were the enemy, all of them. Even the children grew up to become soldiers who killed humans. This was war. There was no room for softness. But his finger did not move to the trigger. The girl was shaking. She was so small. She looked at him the way his little sister used to look at him when she had nightmares, desperate, afraid, hoping someone would make the fear go away. "Please," the girl whispered in broken human language. "Please, no hurt, mother." His heart felt like it was being crushed. He thought of his sister back on Earth. She had died 3 years ago when the bombed Seoul. She had been 12 years old. He should hate this child. He should hate everything about her. But looking at her now, all he saw was a scared little girl who loved her mother. He lowered his rifle. "I am not going to hurt you," he said slowly, clearly. "Do you understand? I will not hurt you." The girl did not believe him. Of course she did not. She had been taught that humans were monsters, savages who killed without honor or mercy. Why would she believe him? Knelt down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. He put his rifle on the ground. "See, no weapon, I want to help." The girl watched him with suspicious eyes. Her body was still tense, still ready to fight even though she had no chance against him. That courage made something ache in his chest. He looked at the woman on the ground. She was still breathing, but barely. Her wounds were serious. Without medical help, she would die. Reached for his communicator to call for extraction. Then he stopped. If he called his unit, they would come. They would see they would follow orders. And this little girl would watch her mother die. He put the communicator away. "What is your name?" he asked the girl. She did not answer at first. Then very quietly she said, "Lyra." "Lyra, that is a pretty name," pointed to himself. "My name is Park." Lyra just stared at him. "Your mother is hurt badly," said. "I know a place where I can take you. It is safe. I can try to help her there." "Why?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Why you help?" Did not have a good answer. He did not have any answer that would make sense in a war that had killed millions. But he tried anyway. "Because you are a child," he said, "and she is your mother, that is enough reason." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at her mother, who was getting weaker with every passing minute. The girl was smart enough to understand that she had no choice. She could not save her mother alone. This human was offering help. It might be a trick, it might be a trap, but it was the only chance she had. "Okay," Lyra said, "I trust you, but if you hurt Mother, I kill you." Despite everything, almost smiled. "That is fair." He worked quickly. He found emergency supplies in the wreckage, medical patches, thermal blankets, water packets. Then he carefully lifted the unconscious woman. She was lighter than he expected. Her blood left dark stains on his uniform. Lyra stayed close to him, watching his every move. She did not trust him, but she followed him anyway because she had no other choice. New and abandoned mining outpost about 10 kilometers north. It had been empty for years, but it still had power and heat. If he could get them there, they might survive. He started walking through the snow, carrying an enemy commander in his arms with an enemy child walking beside him. The wind was cold and harsh. His muscles burned with effort. Every step was difficult. Behind them, the burning ship grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the gray horizon. His unit would find the wreckage soon. They would see no survivors. They would report the mission complete. And Sergeant Park would be listed as missing in action, probably dead. He did not care. For the first time in 6 years of war, he felt like he was doing something right, something human. The walk to the outpost took 4 hours. By the time they arrived, could barely stand. Lyra was exhausted, her small legs struggling through the deep snow, but they made it. The outpost was dark and cold, but the generators still worked. Got the heat running and laid the woman on a bed. He did what he could for her wounds, using human medical supplies on alien biology and hopping for the best. Lyra sat in the corner, watching him work on her mother. Her silver eyes never left him. "You are strange human," she said finally. Laughed tiredly. "Yes, I probably am." That night, in an abandoned outpost on a frozen moon, a human soldier and an alien child sat in silence while an enemy commander fought for her life. And somewhere far above them, the war continued without them. The human guarded the enemy's daughter. The alien mother won't remember him. Part 2, 40 Days in the Dark. The first week was the hardest. Did not know anything about medicine. He did not know how their bodies worked, what they needed, or how to help them heal. All he could do was keep the woman warm, clean her wounds, and hope her body would do the rest. Lyra did not speak to him during that first week. She sat by her mother's bed, holding her hand, whispering words in that could not understand. Sometimes she sang soft songs that sounded like lullabies. Other times she just cried quietly. Gave her space. He understood grief. He understood fear. He did not try to force her to talk or trust him. He simply did his job, keeping them alive, keeping them safe. The mining outpost was small but functional. There were 4 rooms, a main area, 2 small bedrooms, and a storage room. The generators provided heat and light, but they were old and made loud noises. The food supplies had brought from the crashed ship were limited. He calculated they had enough for maybe 2 months if they were careful. Every day followed the same routine. He would wake up early, check the woman's condition, change her bandages, and try to get some water into her mouth. Then he would check the outpost systems, make sure the heat was working, and look outside to see if anyone was coming. No one ever came. The moon was remote, far from the main battlefields. His unit had probably given up searching for him by now. He was just another casualty of war. On the 8th day, Lyra finally spoke to him. "She is getting worse," she said. Her voice was flat, tired. "I can feel it." Looked at the woman on the bed. Her breathing was shallow. Her silver skin had turned pale gray. He did not know what that meant for her, but he knew it was not good. "I am doing everything I can," he said honestly. "I am sorry I do not know more." Lyra nodded slowly. She did not blame him. How could she? He was trying harder than anyone had ever tried for them. "Why did you save us?" she asked. It was the same question from before, but this time it was different. This time she genuinely wanted to understand. Sat down across from her. He was exhausted. He had not slept properly in days, but he owed her an answer. "I do not know," he admitted. "When I saw you protecting your mother, I thought of my own sister. She died in the war. She was young, like you. And when she died, I felt like I lost everything good in the world." He paused. "Maybe I saved you because I could not save her. Maybe I wanted to prove that humans can be more than killers. Or maybe I was just tired of all the death." Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Believe humans have no soul. They say you are animals who only know how to destroy." "And what do you believe?" Lyra looked at him with those strange silver eyes. "I believe they are wrong." That was the moment everything changed between them. After that night, Lyra began to open up. She told about her home world, a planet called Prime. She described the purple forests and the 3 moons that lit up the night sky. She talked about her friends at school, her favorite foods, and the pet creature she had left behind. In return, told her about Earth. He described the oceans, the mountains, the cities full of lights. He told her about Korean food, rice, kimchi, soup, and she laughed when he tried to explain how spicy some dishes were. He told her about his grandmother who had raised him after his parents died, and about the card game called Go Stop that she had taught him. "Can you teach me?" Lyra asked one evening. Did not have real cards, so he made some from pieces of metal he found in the storage room. They were rough and ugly, but they worked. He spent hours teaching Lyra the rules, and she learned quickly. She was smart, much smarter than most children her age. The first time she beat him, she laughed so hard that tears came out of her eyes. It was the first time I'd heard her laugh since the crash. The sound filled the dark outpost with something warm, something almost like hope. Days turned into weeks. The woman Lyra told him her name was remained unconscious, but her condition slowly improved. Her skin regained some color. Her breathing became stronger. Whatever was happening inside her body, it was healing. Learned more about from Lyra. She was not just a soldier. She was High Commander, one of the most powerful military leaders in the Empire. She had planned dozens of battles against humans. She had won most of them. She had also given the order for the attack on station. 30,000 humans had died that day. When Lyra told him this, felt something cold settle in his chest. He had friends who died at station. Good people, young people with families and dreams. And he was saving the woman who killed them. Lyra saw the change in his face. "You hate her now," she said quietly. Was silent for a long moment, then he shook his head. "I do not hate her, I hate what she did, but hating her will not bring back the dead, and killing her will not end the war." He looked at Lyra. "You are her daughter, you love her. That is enough reason to keep her alive." Lyra did not understand. How could she? She was a child, but she accepted his words because she had no choice. On the 38th day, opened her eyes. Was changing her bandages when it happened. One moment she was still and quiet, the next her hand shot up and grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Her eyes were sharp, alert, and full of danger. "Human," she hissed. Before could react, Lyra was between them. "Mother, no, he saved us. He saved your life." Grip loosened slightly. Her eyes moved to her daughter, then back too. She was confused, trying to understand how she got here, why a human was caring for her, why her daughter was defending him. "It is true," said calmly. He did not try to pull away. "Your ship crashed on this moon 40 days ago. I found you and brought you here. I have been taking care of you and your daughter since then." "Why?" His voice was rough, weak from weeks of silence. "Because your daughter asked me not to hurt you." Looked at Lyra. The girl nodded, her eyes full of tears. Slowly released wrist. She lay back on the bed, exhausted from even that small effort. "I do not understand," she whispered. "You are human, we are enemies." Stood up and stepped back, giving her space. "Yes, we are, but your daughter needed help, and I could not walk away. Closed her eyes. She did not have the strength to argue, to fight, or to think about what any of this meant. Lyra sat beside her mother, holding her hand, crying softly with relief. Walked to the window and looked out at the frozen landscape. The sky was gray, as always. The snow stretched endlessly in every direction. 40 days ago, he had been a soldier following orders. Now he was something else, something he did not have a name for yet. Behind him, a mother and daughter held each other for the first time in over a month. And for that moment, the war felt very far away. The human guarded the enemy's daughter. The alien mother won't remember him. Part 3. The Enemy Awakens. High Commander had spent her entire life fighting humans. She had studied them, hunted them, and killed them. She knew their tactics, their weapons, and their weaknesses. She had been taught since childhood that humans were savage creatures, dangerous animals who destroyed everything they touched. Now she was lying in a human's bed, wrapped in a human's blankets, alive because a human had saved her. The first few days after waking were difficult. Was too weak to move, too confused to think clearly. Her body was healing, but slowly. Every breath hurt. Every movement was a struggle. And always the human was there. Brought her food and water. He checked her wounds and changed her bandages. He never asked for anything in return. He never threatened her or reminded her that she was his prisoner. He simply cared for her like she was a patient, not an enemy. It made no sense. Watched him constantly, waiting for the truth to reveal itself, waiting for him to show his real intentions. Humans always had hidden motives. They always wanted something. That was what she had been taught. But day after day just kept helping. "You should eat more," he said one morning, placing a bowl of heated food in front of her. "Your body needs energy to heal." Looked at the food. It was human military rations, bland and tasteless but nutritious. She had eaten worse on campaign. "Why do you continue this?" she asked. "You must know who I am, what I have done." Sat down across from her. Lyra was sleeping in the other room, exhausted from another night of worrying about her mother. "I know," he said simply. "Station," said, watching his face carefully. 30,000 humans, I gave that order." His expression did not change. "I know." "And yet you help me." "Yes." Felt a flash of anger. She did not understand this human. She could not read him. His actions made no sense by any logic she knew. "Do you want revenge?" she demanded. "Are you keeping me alive so you can torture me later? Hand me over to your commanders for interrogation?" Shook his head. "No." "Then what do you want?" For a moment was silent. Then he said, "I want the war to end. I want children like your daughter to grow up without knowing what a bomb sounds like. I want to stop burying friends." He met her eyes. "Killing you will not give me any of those things. It will just add one more body to a pile that is already too high." Did not know how to respond. In all her years of war, no enemy had ever spoken to her like this. They screamed, they cursed, they begged, they threatened. But this human just spoke the truth, quiet and sad. "You are strange," she said finally. Almost smiled. "Your daughter said the same thing." Days passed, grew stronger. Soon she could sit up on her own, then she could stand. Then she could walk a few steps before her legs gave out. Helped her through every stage of recovery. He was patient and gentle, never rushing her, never showing frustration. When she fell, he helped her up. When she was in pain, he found ways to ease it. Lyra was always nearby, watching with hopeful eyes. She had told her mother everything, how had found them, how he had carried them through the snow, how he had stayed awake for days to watch over them, how he had taught her to play cards and told her stories about Earth. "He is a good human, mother," Lyra said one evening. "I know you do not believe it, but it is true." Looked at her daughter. Lyra had changed in the past weeks. She was still the same child, but there was something new in her eyes, a softness, a hope that had not seen before. The human had given her that. That night after Lyra fell asleep and sat together in the main room, the generators hummed quietly. Outside, the wind howled against the walls. "I have a question," said. Nodded, "Ask." "You have shown my daughter kindness, more than kindness. You have treated her like she matters, like she is not the enemy." She paused. "Why?" Was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I had a sister. Her name was. She was 12 when she died. The bombed our city and she was in her school when it happened." Felt something twist in her chest. She knew that attack. She had not ordered it personally, but she had approved the target list. "When I found your daughter in that ship," continued, "I saw my sister. I saw a child who was scared and alone, trying to protect someone she loved, and I could not be the monster who took that away from her. Even though my people killed your sister." "Yes." Hal's voice was barely a whisper. "How can you not hate us?" Looked at her with tired eyes. "I did hate you. For years I hated every I saw. The hate kept me alive. It made me a good soldier." He shook his head slowly. "But hate is exhausting, and it does not fix anything. It just spreads like a disease until everyone is infected." He looked toward the room where Lyra was sleeping. "Your daughter is not responsible for this war. She did not choose to be born any more than I chose to be born human. She is just a child. And if I cannot show mercy to a child, then they are right about us. We really are just monsters." Was silent for a long time. She had commanded thousands of soldiers. She had made decisions that changed the course of the war, but she had never met anyone like this human. "You confuse me," she admitted. Laughed softly. "I confuse myself sometimes." Another silence, then said something she had never said to an enemy before. "Thank you." Looked at her surprised. "For saving my daughter," continued, "for saving me. You had every reason to let us die, every right, but you did not." Her voice was rough with emotion. "I do not understand you. I do not know if I will ever understand you, but I know that I owe you a debt that I can never repay." Shook his head. "You do not owe me anything." "I do, by law and by my own honor I do." She met his eyes. "One day I will find a way to repay it." They sat in silence after that, two enemies who had somehow become something else. Not friends, that was too strong a word, but not enemies anymore either. Outside, the snow continued to fall. The war continued to rage, but inside that small outpost something had changed. A human and I had looked at each other and seen not monsters, but people. And that small change, that tiny shift in understanding, would eventually change everything. But neither of them knew that yet. For now they just sat in the dark, listening to the wind, waiting for a future they could not see. The human guarded the enemy's daughter. The alien mother won't remember him. Part 4: The Price of Mercy. The rescue ship appeared on the 47th day. Saw it first, a dark shape cutting through the gray clouds heading straight for the outpost. He knew their ships well enough by now to recognize the design. His heart sank. He had known this moment would come eventually, was too important to the Empire. They would search for her, they would find her, and when they did, they would find him too. "Your people are here," he said quietly. Stood at the window beside him, watching the ship descend. She was almost fully recovered now, strong enough to walk and fight if needed. Lyra stood behind them, her small hand gripping sleeve. "I will not let them hurt you," said. Shook his head. "You cannot promise that. I am human. To them, I am the enemy. You saved my life. You saved my daughter. That means something." "Does it? Will they care?" Did not answer. She did not know. The ship landed outside the outpost. Could hear boots hitting the snow, voices calling out in. He had his rifle, but it was useless. There were at least 20 soldiers out there. Fighting would only get him killed faster. "Stay behind me," ordered. She walked to the door and opened it. The soldiers rushed in, weapons raised, ready for battle. When they saw, they immediately pointed their guns at him. Human, one of them shouted, get on the ground. Did not move, he looked at. She stepped between him and the soldiers. Lower your weapons. The soldiers hesitated. They recognized her. Everyone in the Empire knew High Commander, but her order made no sense. Commander, one of them said carefully, this human is an enemy combatant. He must be eliminated or detained. He saved my life, said, her voice cold and commanding. He saved my daughter's life. For 47 days he cared for us when he could have killed us. I will not allow you to harm him. The soldiers looked at each other, confused. This was not normal. This was not how things worked. With respect, Commander, our orders are to. I do not care about your orders. Eyes were hard. I am invoking the life debt. Silent, the soldiers stared at her in shock. Did not know what the life debt was, but from their reaction, it was clearly something significant. Lyra tugged on his sleeve. It is an old law, she whispered. Very old. If someone saves the life of a high-ranking commander or their bloodline, that person cannot be killed. Their life belongs to the commander until the debt is repaid. Understood. Was using her authority, her reputation, and an ancient law to protect him. The lead soldier's face was tight with frustration. Commander, this is a human. The life debt has never been applied to an enemy before. Then this will be the first time. Did not back down. This man had every reason to kill us. His own people ordered him to kill us. He chose mercy instead. If the life debt means anything, it applies to him. A long, tense moment passed. Then the soldiers slowly lowered their weapons. They did not like it, but was High Commander. Her word was law. What would you have us do with him? The leader asked. Looked at, she wanted to let him go, send him back to his own people. But she knew that was not possible. The other commanders, the council, they would never allow a human who had seen their High Commander at her weakest to simply walk away. Take him to Detention Facility 7, she said quietly. He will be held there under my authority. No one is to harm him. Understood. He was still a prisoner, but he was alive. That was more than he had expected. Lyra cried out as the soldiers moved toward him. Mother, no, you cannot let them take him. Knelt down and held her daughter. I am sorry, Lyra. This is the only way I can protect him. If he stays free, others will kill him. At least in detention, I can keep him safe. Tears ran down Lyra's face. She pulled away from her mother and ran too, wrapping her arms around him. You promised, she sobbed. You said you would not leave. Knelt down to her level. His heart was breaking, but he kept his voice calm. I did not promise that. I promised I would not hurt you, and I kept that promise. I do not want you to go. I know, he gently wiped her tears away, but I need you to be brave now. Can you do that for me? Lyra nodded, even though she was still crying. Good, managed a small smile. Remember the card game I taught you. Keep practicing, get really good, and when we meet again, you can beat me properly. When? Lyra asked. When will we meet again? Did not answer. He did not know if they ever would. The soldiers took him away. They put restraints on his wrists and led him out of the outpost into the cold. Lyra watched from the doorway, her mother's arms around her, both of them silent. Did not look back, he could not. The detention facility was on the other side of space, far from the front lines. It was a cold, gray place filled with political prisoners and enemies of the state. Was the only human there. The other prisoners did not know what to make of him. Some hated him simply for being human. Others were curious about the strange creature in their midst. A few, after hearing rumors about how he had saved High Commander, showed him a grudging respect. Years passed. Lost track of time. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. He was fed, clothed, and given a cell with a bed. That was more than most human prisoners received. Had kept her word, no one harmed him. But he was alone, completely alone. Until the visit started. Lyra came to see him once a month, every month without fail. She was growing older, taller, smarter. She brought him books translated into human languages, stories and histories that she thought he might like. She told him about her life, her studies, her training, her dreams. She was becoming a diplomat, she said. She wanted to end the war. She wanted to build a bridge between humans and— "Because of you," she told him one day. She was 14 now, no longer the frightened child he had found in the wreckage. "You showed me that peace is possible, that enemies can become friends. I want to make that happen for everyone." Smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in months. "You will be great at it." "I learned from the best." Laughed. "I am just a soldier. I do not know anything about diplomacy." "You know about mercy," Lyra said seriously. "That is the most important thing." Years continued to pass. The war dragged on, both sides exhausted but unwilling to surrender. Grew older in his cell. His hair turned gray. His body weakened. But every month Lyra came. And every month she reminded him that he had not been forgotten. Somewhere out there, a young woman was fighting for peace. And she was fighting because a human soldier had once chosen kindness over orders. Did not know if he would ever be free. He did not know if he would ever see Earth again. But he knew that what he had done mattered. And some days that was enough. The human guarded the enemy's daughter. The alien mother won't remember him. Part 5, The Forgotten Guardian. 15 years after the crash on 7, the war finally ended. It did not end with a great victory or a terrible defeat. It ended because both sides were tired. Millions had died. Planets had been destroyed. Neither humans nor had enough left to keep fighting. The peace negotiations took place on neutral ground, a space station at the edge of both territories. Diplomats from both sides gathered in a great hall, ready to discuss terms, argue about boundaries, and find a way to stop the killing. Lyra was there, representing the Empire. She was 22 years old now. She had grown into a strong, intelligent woman with her mother's sharp eyes and her father's gentle heart. She had spent years preparing for this moment, studying human culture and language, learning how to build bridges instead of walls. When she walked into the hall, the human delegation stared at her. They had expected commanders, warriors, politicians. They had not expected someone so young. But Lyra had earned her place. She had proven herself through years of work, years of fighting against the voices in her own government who wanted the war to continue. The negotiations were difficult. Both sides had grievances, anger, and pain. Trust was almost impossible. But Lyra kept pushing. She reminded them why they were there. She spoke about the cost of war, the children who had grown up without parents, the families torn apart, the futures destroyed. She spoke with passion and honesty that surprised everyone in the room. "I was 7 years old when my ship crashed on 7, she said during one session. "I was alone with my dying mother, surrounded by fire and ice. I thought I was going to die." The room was silent. A human soldier found us. His orders were to kill us. His own people had suffered because of my mother's commands. He had every reason to hate us, to hurt us, to take revenge. She paused. Instead, he saved our lives. He carried my mother through the snow. He cared for us for 47 days. He showed me that humans were not monsters. The human delegation shifted uncomfortably. This was not the story they had expected. "I am here today because of that man," Lyra continued. "I became a diplomat because of him. I believe peace is possible because he showed me it was possible." She looked around the room. If a single human soldier could choose mercy in the middle of a war, then surely all of us can choose peace now that the fighting is over. After the session, the human head diplomat approached her. "This soldier you mentioned," he said carefully, "does he have a name?" "Park," Lyra said. "Sergeant Park, Terran Federation Marine Corps." The diplomat frowned. "That name is not in our records. Are you sure he was Federation?" "I am certain." The diplomat checked his data pad. According to our files, a Sergeant Park was listed as killed in action on 7, approximately 15 years ago. His unit reported him missing after a mission to investigate a crashed vessel. Lyra's heart was pounding. He is not dead. He is alive. He has been held in detention facility 7 for 15 years. The diplomat stared at her. You are telling me that a Federation soldier has been imprisoned by your government for 15 years, and we were never informed. My mother invoked the life debt to protect him. It was the only way to keep him alive. Your government would have tried to rescue him, and the rescue would have failed. He would have been executed. Lyra met his eyes. I know this is difficult to hear, but he is alive, and I want him released as part of this treaty. The diplomat was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I will bring this to my delegation. If what you say is true, his release will be a condition of any agreement. The negotiations continued for another 3 weeks. There were arguments, setbacks, and moments when it seemed like everything would fall apart. But in the end, both sides signed the treaty. And one of the conditions was the release of Sergeant Park. The day was released. Lyra was waiting for him at the gates of the detention facility. She had not seen him in person for almost a year. The final stages of the negotiations had kept her away. When the gates opened, she barely recognized him. He was 49 years old now. His hair was completely gray. His face was lined with age and exhaustion. He walked slowly, his body weakened by years of confinement. But when he saw her, he smiled. It was the same smile she remembered from the outpost, tired, sad, but real. You got tall, he said. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. You got old. She ran to him and embraced him, right there in front of the guards, in front of everyone. She did not care. She had waited 15 years for this moment. Held her gently, like she was still the frightened child he had found in the wreckage. You did it, he said softly. You ended the war. We did it, Lyra corrected him. None of this would have happened without you. They walked together to the transport ship that would take back to human space. Lyra had arranged everything, a medical team to help him recover, documents to restore his identity, and passage to Earth. Before he boarded, Lyra handed him an envelope. This is from my mother. Looked at her surprised. He had not heard anything about in years. She is not well, Lyra said quietly. The years have not been kind to her. She was removed from command after she defended you. The political exile was hard, and recently her mind has started to fail. She forgets things now, important things. She does not remember most of the war anymore. Felt a deep sadness settle in his chest. I am sorry. She wrote this letter before her memory started to fade. She made me promise to give it to you if we ever met again. Took the envelope. It was sealed with the crest of his family, a mark of honor and authenticity. He opened it carefully and read the words inside. The letter was written in human language, probably with Lyra's help. The handwriting was careful, each word chosen with precision. To Sergeant Park it began. I have forgotten many things. I will forget more. But I have instructed my daughter to never forget you. You showed us that humanity is not what we were taught. You showed my daughter that mercy is not weakness. I cannot remember your face anymore. I cannot remember your voice, but I remember what you did. I remember that a human chose kindness when he had every reason to choose cruelty. I remember that you saved my daughter's faith in the universe. And I have made sure the universe will remember too. Thank you, Sergeant, for everything. High Commander. Read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully and placed it over his heart. Lyra watched him with tears in her eyes. She wanted you to know that it mattered. What you did, it mattered. Nodded slowly. He could not speak. The words would not come. He boarded the transport ship alone. Lyra watched from the platform as the ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. They would see each other again. The treaty included provisions for diplomatic exchanges, cultural programs, and official visits. Lyra would travel to Earth, would be honored as a hero of peace. But he never asked for recognition. He never accepted medals or monuments. He returned to Earth and found a small house in the countryside, far from the cities and the noise. He lived quietly, watching the seasons change, thinking about everything that had happened. Every year on the anniversary of the crash, Lyra would visit him. She would bring news from Prime, stories about the growing friendship between their peoples and pictures of her own family. She had children now, who called uncle, even though they had never met him. And every year she would thank him. "You changed everything," she told him once. "One act of mercy and you changed the course of history." Shook his head. "I just did what felt right." That is exactly why it mattered. On the last day of his life was sitting in his garden watching the sunset. He was 83 years old, tired and ready. Lyra was there, holding his hand. She had come as soon as she heard he was fatting. "I am not afraid," said softly. "I lived long enough to see peace. That is more than most soldiers get." Lyra squeezed his hand. "You will be remembered, I promise." Smiled. "I do not need to be remembered. I just need to know that it was worth it." "It was," Lyra whispered. "Every moment, every sacrifice, it was worth it." Closed his eyes. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. And the man who had once chosen mercy in a frozen wasteland finally found his rest. Years later, historians would write about the end of the human war. They would analyze the treaties, the battles, the political movements that led to peace. But Lyra made sure they also told the story of Park, the soldier who saved an enemy, the human who proved that compassion was stronger than hate. And in schools across both civilizations, children learned about the man who changed everything by simply being kind. His grave on Earth became a place of pilgrimage. Humans and alike would visit, leaving flowers and messages of thanks. The inscription on his headstone was simple. He chose mercy. And that was enough.